An astronomer from Harvard, Avalobi, proposed a hypothesis that an object called triatlas is actually something else related to planetary technologies. The numbers have changed, and with them, the entire history of triatlas has changed. For months, astronomers speculated that this interstellar guest would merely pass by the red planet. However, astronomers continue to observe the recently discovered object, likely a comet, located beyond our solar system. This violator, named Triatlas, was first spotted on July 1st. Its flight was spectacular but harmless. However, new calculations conducted by the Harvard team and independent analysts from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory revealed something extraordinary. This is not just a stone, and perhaps it is moving into the solar system. We know that its trajectory is well aligned with the orbits of the planets. The trajectory of Triatlas is not just precise, it is actively narrowing, and its speed is changing. The initial data indicates that it may indeed collide with Mars. Triatlas is moving faster than any object ever tracked by humanity from interstellar space, almost at a speed of 87 kilometers per second relative to the Sun this week. From a practical standpoint, he crosses the distance between Earth and the Moon in less than 80 minutes. Every hour of its movement, the gravitational forces of the Sun, Jupiter, and Mars adjust its path by micrometers, tiny changes that become significant over tens of millions of kilometers. The Mars Observatory, Sankarbit, confirmed its latest course. The coma of the object, its hazy cloud, doubled in brightness since August, showing strange high-energy bursts in ultraviolet. This is not typical behavior for comets. The rate of carbon dioxide emission significantly exceeds that observed in any comet in the solar system. Instead of stabilizing as it approaches the Sun, Triatlas behaves like a guided missile, autonomously adjusting, accelerating, and correcting its course, emitting gas in deliberate bursts. New calculations show that the closest approach to Mars will be just 1,950,000 kilometers on September 26, 2025. For a planetary astronomer, this is on the edge. At such a distance, the gravitational field of Mars can have a measurable effect on a comet, a piece of what could have become a planet in another star system. And here comes an unexpected twist. Just 10 kilometers of speed can change the orbit enough to cause a direct collision in just a few weeks. Think about this. Triatlas only needs a small impulse that the SpaceX spaceship uses to launch from Earth to change its fate from a flyby to a collision. These impulse changes are happening right now, hidden in its tail. Spectroscopy using the Gemini telescope in the south revealed something that no one can explain yet. Instead of a uniform random emission of sublimated ice, the tail of Triatlas emits gas impulses every 17 minutes. Perfectly synchronized over several days, these impulses create microaccelerators precisely aimed to align with Mars's orbital plane. No existing processes in comet science create such precise rhythm. Comets erupt when sunlight hits fresh, icy patches, but such eruptions are chaotic. They do not repeat like a metronome. Here, however, the impulses appear meticulously designed, like orientation engines on a spacecraft. If this pattern continues, on September 19th, the comet will create enough lateral thrust to reduce the remaining distance to less than 50,000 kilometers, closer than some of Mars's moons. A rapidly moving object the size of Manhattan is approaching our solar system and will reach its maximum distance from Earth on December 17th. Is it a comet, an asteroid, or something else? A Harvard astronomer believes there is a high probability that this is a planetary origin object, and the consequences for humanity could be serious. It may not just be a rock. It is called Triatlas. Give me a convincing reason why you believe this object may be artificial and possibly extraterrestrial. Firstly, its brightness suggests that if it reflects sunlight from a solid surface, its diameter must be about 20 kilometers. This is bigger than Manhattan, and it is truly a massive stone. The previous interstellar objects were hundreds of times smaller. Therefore, it makes no sense that the third object from interstellar space would be hundreds of times larger than the previous two, and we will see nothing between them. Moreover, if you look at the trajectory of this object, it is indeed perfectly aligned with the plane of the planets around the Sun. The main question is whether it was created by intelligence, and a large ejection could then propel it into a collision, with a current mass estimated at 10 billion tons of heavily irradiated ice and dust with a metallic core, possibly 400 meters in diameter. A direct hit on Mars will release energy equivalent to 2 million megatons of TNT, thousands of times more than the most powerful nuclear device ever tested on Earth. The formed crater can reach a width of 60 kilometers and a depth of 5 kilometers, ejecting debris into Mars's orbit. and potentially casting some of it into interplanetary space. Since Mars hosts dozens of active and planned spacecraft, such as Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter and Perseverance, the impact will not only leave a mark on the planet, but also destroy decades of scientific investments. Communication satellites, climate monitoring, and life search missions can be paralyzed in an instant. Quiet preparations are underway inside. Leaked official memos indicate that mission planners are already utilizing Mars reconnaissance, using an orbital spacecraft as a forward radar to obtain images and track the arrival vector of 3 modules. Highly sensitive antennas in Goldstone have been re-equipped to reflect radar signals from the comet's core. The results remain classified, but one insider described them as something completely different from any echo signals we have ever recorded. Instead of the characteristic signals of soft ice, hard metallic particles return. If these leaks are indeed accurate, then the 3 eyes of the Atlas may consist not only of ice and dust. Its core may contain alloys that do not form naturally in deep space, indicating the presence of artificial material surrounded by an icy coating. Professor Bello and his student, Adam Hybart, have long proposed a technological explanation. Their new article, currently under review but already circulating on the internet, outlines a scenario where 3 eyes of a creature represent a directed messenger sent by an advanced civilization. Instead of simply crossing our solar system, he must touch Mars to deploy probes, or intentionally crash to release discovered materials from underground storage. They calculated that with each gas impulse, the object does not randomly lose mass, but controls its movement using sublimated gases. This would allow him to adjust his trajectory when entering the vicinity of our planet, similar to how a spacecraft uses reaction control thrusters. As if confirming the worst fears, the Mars Express spacecraft of the European Space Agency detected 3 small shimmering objects in a triangular formation in high orbit above Mars. Initially, they were mistaken for cosmic rays, but they appear in the same locations on 3 consecutive orbits. Could these be reconnaissance probes ejected by 3 branches during the previous flyby? Lowe urges NASA to compare these objects with IMORO's archival data to determine if there are any corresponding metal fragments on the surface. If they are discovered, it will be the first recorded evidence of interstellar technology, much more significant than the Martian meteorites we studied on Earth. The timeline is becoming increasingly alarming. On September 26, 2025, cities celebrate the intersection of Mars's orbital trajectory with 3 branches. From September 19th to 30th is a critical window for final course correction using gas impulses. During this period, the comet's speed relative to Mars will be about 57 kilometers per second. At such speed, even a minor impact could vaporize a cubic kilometer of rock and eject dust into space. Critics argue that no natural comet can change its trajectory by 10 kilometers per second using only sublimation. This will require more than 10 billion joules and concentrated energy, far exceeding any comet emissions we have ever observed. Nevertheless, this is what the trajectory suggests: an energy anomaly of incredible power. If we see such a maneuver, it means that something is generating energy on a scale unknown to planetary science. Perhaps beneath the ice layer are fusion or antimatter reactors, expelling superheated gas as thrust. Meanwhile, amateur astronomers around the world are asked to provide all images from 3 trajectories they can capture. Some of these images show how the tail splits into 3 needle-like streams, shimmering with a green, eerie light reminiscent of the auroras, pulsating in unison with gas emissions. With prolonged exposure, green rays seem to converge towards Mars, as if drawing a path. Although Mars is far from Earth, a powerful impact can eject debris onto interplanetary trajectories. Some models suggest that fragments could reach the vicinity of Earth within a decade. If even one of these fragments carries artificial microbes or self-replicating nanotechnologies, they could infect not only Mars, but eventually the inner solar system. The European Space Agency, Roscosmos, the China National Space Administration, and NASA secretly convened emergency operational groups. No one speaks publicly about why, but insiders mention planetary protection protocols. For the first time in history, scientists openly discuss whether humanity should attempt to intercept or even destroy an interstellar object before it reaches another planet. The main question remains: who or what controls the 3 trajectories? Is this an abandoned spaceship of a civilization millions of years ahead of us? Is it operating in autopilot mode, or is it a deliberate probe testing our reaction? We don't know. But the data no longer aligns with previous notions of a passive comet. Something about this object behaves like a vehicle rather than just a stone. By mid-September, All major observatories, from Hubble to James Webb, will be focused on studying three trajectories. If its impulses persist and it overcomes the final stretch of orbital rupture, the red planet may witness a collision unmatched since the last heavy bombardment 4 billion years ago. For scientists, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. For others, this is a cosmic nightmare unfolding in slow motion. As this nightmare approaches, the silence of official channels grows louder. NASA releases restrained updates. Other organizations post familiar images. They realize that if three trajectories actually collide with Mars, the consequences will change our place in the universe. While observing the rise of Mars this September, one should remember the mysterious interstellar object gliding above the rusty planet, emitting strange green pulses and adjusting its course. Could it be just a coincidence? Or is there something more behind it? If so, and some hidden mechanism within this icy body directs it towards a collision, the first undeniable evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence may appear not as a radio signal, but when a glowing comet crashes into our neighboring planet from a height of 57 kilometers, altering the night sky and showing us that we are not alone. So what do you think is really happening? Is it a natural phenomenon or something else? The more scientists study this recently discovered interstellar object, the stranger it seems. At this moment, it races through our solar system at an incredible speed of about 61 kilometers per second relative to the Sun, making it the fastest moving object in our vicinity. Currently, it is about 2.5 astronomical units from the Sun, deep within Jupiter's orbit, moving towards perihelion, the closest point to the Sun it will reach by the end of October 2025. Surprisingly, scientists discovered that this new interstellar object came from the constellation Sagittarius, the very corner of the sky where mysterious radio signals had previously been detected. One of the most famous of them is the WOW signal, a powerful and unexplained radio burst first recorded in 1977. Interestingly, other objects moving in the same direction also drew the attention of researchers. Recently, this object began to exhibit unusual behavior and strange properties, prompting some scientists to take it more seriously. They stated that it is necessary to closely observe him with the most powerful telescopes when he approaches Mars on October the 3rd, 2025. Let me tell you about some recent discoveries regarding this object that raise questions about its nature. A rapidly moving object comparable in size to Manhattan races towards our solar system. Is it a comet, an asteroid, or something else? Astronomers believe there is a high probability that it is a ship of artificial origin. When scientists recently used the Very Large Telescope in Chile to study this object, they noticed something strange in its gas cloud. Usually when cosmic rocks or dust are heated by the sun, they simultaneously release iron and nickel. This is because both elements are formed in stars and supernova explosions and are almost always found mixed with cosmic material. If dust begins to turn into gas, lines of both iron and nickel should be visible in the spectrum. In this strange interstellar object, scientists discovered gaseous nickel while iron was completely absent. This is extremely unusual and raises the question of why nickel is present separately. Could something selectively extract nickel while retaining iron? But this is not the only mystery. The telescope also detected cyanide in the gas tail around the comet. While cyanide is found in comets, scientists were surprised by the pattern of its increase. As the object approached the sun, the amounts of nickel and cyanides sharply rose. Comets usually behave predictably. The ice heats up, begins to sublimate, and the gas release increases at a constant rate. However, in this case, the growth was too sharp, much faster than predicted by the model of heating and sublimation of ice. This indicates something unusual. It behaves not like a typical comet, simply releasing gas when heated. Instead, the data indicates a different ejection mechanism beyond the usual sunlight's effect on ice. Professor Avi Lowe suggests that the strange gas signature of this object may be unnatural and indicate a technological origin, noting that modern engineering often uses special metallic coatings or durable alloys. Under the influence of strong solar heat, these materials can release nickel gases or cyanides, which is not typical for ordinary comets. Additionally, scientists have discovered an unusually large amount of carbon dioxide emitted by the object. According to Avi Lowe, this additional carbon dioxide may correspond to the idea of industrial or artificial origin, as it does not fit the typical behavior of comets. But that's not all the oddities. Recently, scientists noticed signs that the object may emit its own light, which is completely unexpected for a comet of this type. You might say it is not just an alien spacecraft, but a nuclear one. Why do you think that? First of all, if the light we observe from this object is a reflection of sunlight, its size must be larger than Manhattan Island. Another peculiarity of this object is its remarkably precise trajectory through our solar system. The trajectory is so rare that it stands out as extremely unusual compared to ordinary celestial bodies. Most interstellar objects enter the atmosphere at random angles, but this object is different. Its path almost perfectly aligns with the plane in which the planets rotate. Such an alignment occurs incredibly rarely. This angle effectively allows the object to fly closer to several planets, as if it is following a pre-planned route. This reminds me of how we planned the trajectory of our Voyager spacecraft to fly past several planets for exploration. It is important to note that throughout its journey, this object will never come close to Earth. Interestingly, at the moment of closest approach to the Sun, Earth will be on the opposite side, allowing us to stay clear of its trajectory. Considering this, some scientists suggest closely monitoring its movement as it approaches the Sun. It can behave unpredictably, for instance, changing its route or trajectory, which may indicate the presence of some unnatural mechanism acting in this object. This unusual and extremely precise trajectory suggests that the object is not just a comet.